All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of G Boot on G Boot 2786. I'm Gavin Richard. This is Gavin Richard Presents. What's going on, everybody? Just waiting for the more people to get in. Let's get it in. Come on. I was actually going to do a follow up before this news started. Before the breaking news came in. What's going on, Leandra? Come on in. Uh, yeah, like I was saying, I was gonna do a video earlier, just a follow up to everything that's been going on before this news broke. Obviously, hearing the judge speak for the first time since the criticism she received, and rightfully so, with hugging Amber Geiger after the verdict, and I was going to talk about other things that we had seen, trying to get some other people that were there in the courtroom in Dallas to speak, and we might do that a little bit later during the week. So just stay tuned for that. But for those of you who have been following the news, you've been on social media, you guys probably know already. Dallas police have named 3 suspects into the murder of Joshua Brown. Now, those that don't know, Joshua Brown was the young man, 28 years old, who gave his statement to the police and to the court. He testified uh, at the Amber Geiger trial just over a week ago that about what he witnessed. And if you look at the video, you could tell that Mr. Brown was very upset. Uh, almost like he didn't want to be there, but he testified anyway. And he basically did what a lot of Americans probably would not do. 'Cause some people do things to avoid jury duty. Some people do their best to avoid coming forward um, during a trial, whether they're afraid that something's going to happen to them or not. A lot of people try to get out of it, but he didn't, and he did show up. And what was interesting, there is actual audio footage of supposedly, it looks like, I'm assuming right after he testified. I did see the clip. I don't know whether it was edited or not. How you doing, Chelsea? That this judge actually said something along the lines. This is Judge Tammy Kemp, or they call her Tammy the Mammy. But she actually said, and I quote, "I'm surprised he came. They were about to arrest him." She said it under her breath like no one could catch it, but everybody saw it, and I've watched it several times. That was disturbing to hear from her. And long story short, after this, Mr. Brown was found murdered as of this past Friday. Now, according to the police, this is what Assistant Chief Avery, like Avery Johnson, Assistant Chief Avery Moore. I gotta say it whenever I read Avery. Assistant Chief Avery Moore said at a news conference today that 3 suspects, identified as Jacarius Mitchell, age 20, Michael Mitchell, age 32, and Thaddeus Green, 22, traveled from Alexandria, Louisiana, to purchase drugs from Brown, 28, in the parking lot of a Dallas apartment complex, according to authorities. They went on and said that Jacarius Mitchell was in custody at a hospital. They didn't name which one. That's interesting. And the other 2 suspects were being sought. Assistant Chief Avery Moore said the 2 fugitives are believed to be armed and dangerous. He said Jacarius Mitchell told police that Brown shot him in the chest, and after Green and after Green and Brown had got into an altercation during the drug deal, and that Green then shot Brown twice. Moore said. Green took Brown's backpack and the gun used to shoot Jacarius Mitchell, and the three suspects fled the scene. Moore said. I'm reading this on from NBC News. You guys can follow it, but it's been reported everywhere. I was looking at it actually when it came out because I was trying to check Dallas News on any developments, and it came on. I believe the CBS News affiliate is where I first saw the press conference. Oh, they've made an arrest, and I saw Willie D. Shout out to him, brother Willie D. His live stream went. Um, I have his alerts whenever he goes live. So when his went live, I went and followed it to look it up. But it says here the suspects dropped Jacarius Mitchell off at a hospital. Michael Mitchell is a suspected getaway driver, and police confiscated 12 pounds of marijuana, 149 grams of THC cartridges, and $4,157 in cash during a search of Brown's home, Moore said. Lee Merritt, that's S. Lee Merritt, lawyer for the family of Botham John, who was fatally shot by Geiger, previously said Brown had reservations about testifying in the trial due to concerns for his safety. Merritt has talked about this on Twitter. You can look at his feed. That's just me saying that. I've looked at it. I do think he's legit. A lot of people have been giving him criticism for some things. You know, I think the lawyers really were stuck in a rock and a hard place, guys, because on one hand, they represent these clients, and of course, they can't go against their clients' wishes, especially when one kid, from what I was reading, the kid who testified, who gave that Brant John Brotham's little brother, who gave that uh, speech, basically said he. I'm sorry, I was reading some guys. Send me the in. Sorry, guys. So, all right. So you guys are watching right now. Yeah. Where was I? I was talking about Botham John's brother. I was listening to Merritt talk to Judge Joe Brown, and I think they stated that the prosecutors were even caught off guard that he spoke because they had originally asked the family, did they want to say anything, and no one said anything, and he didn't say anything, and it wasn't until the last minute that he came on and gave that impact statement. And they did defend what the brother, they were defending the little brother and what he was saying. And of course, Judge Joe Brown made a comment, and I kind of agreed with him, is that what if Emmett Till's mother, had apologized, well, not apologized, but forgave the two men who mutilated her boy? And he basically mocked, he was mocking Brant John. And I look at Brant John, and as much as I was disappointed in what I heard, and I understand the family has a right to forgive the brother, their brother's killer, and who want that's their right, although we don't see it that way. When I listen to his father talk and how he said how he wanted her to be his friend, Amber Geiger's friend, I'm not surprised when I hear the brother talk that way, especially if the man of the house, the father, is speaking that way and talking crazy. Like I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Like I really couldn't believe what I was hearing, that the things that he said. And now when I listen to the father talk about she could be my friend, I'd like to be her friend one day. I can believe it. We're always being asked to forgive in a wake of violence and oppression. And yet, when the shoe is on the other foot, these people are not talking about forgiveness. Even when you see a common thug and criminal kill one of their loved ones and relatives, while they talk about, yeah, we'll forgive them, they'll usually say that when that person is about to get lethal injection in their arms. We'll see, I've seen videos of that. There are TV shows uh, about that. And now, let's getting back to Mr. Brown. I don't believe what they are telling me about uh, Botham John, about Joshua Brown. I have problems with that. Uh, I have problems with that. I truly do. And I just think that what's been going on now, uh, what's been going on from what I'm reading. I'm sorry, guys, I'm getting distracted reading my emails. Excuse me, I was trying to send something. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys. I appreciate y'all being patient with me. So, so yeah, as I listen to this story, and the other thing we got to think about Joshua Brown, let's get back to him, is that when he testified, this was a man that owned, uh, managed 4 R&B hubs. He was married. He had children, 2 children, I believe. He also, so he had a successful business. So what the Dallas police are saying is basically that Joshua Brown was James St. Patrick from Power. He's Ghost. Because Ghost, if you know the TV show, if you watch it like I do, Ghost is an astute businessman. He owns a successful nightclub. At one point, he was trying to open, I think, another nightclub in a different state. And all the while he's doing that, he lives in this beautiful penthouse and he runs a drug empire. Married to a beautiful wife with 3 kids. He has 2 kids now. If you haven't been following the show, so it's a little spoiler alert. uh, but you see that now it's almost like a Hollywood script that this young man testifies, that Brown testifies on behalf of Botham John. And before he can actually testify in the civil trial of Botham John's family, before in the criminal trial where he was a victim back on November 23rd, 2018. This was about 2, 3 months after the Botham John murder. He was actually shot at at a club, and he witnessed the death of a friend, I believe, and I got some information on that. Let's put that together. Hold on. 14 years ago. Strip club shooting. John was shot and killed on September 6, 2018. Brown was shot on November 23rd at a strip club, Dallas Cabaret South, according to a police blotter item. A full police report of that shooting was not immediately available. But citing an affidavit, the Dallas Morning News reported that a man had waited for Brown outside the club and the two fought. The man started shooting when Brown tried to leave, wounding his foot, the newspaper reported. Nicholas Saquon Diggs, 26 years old, was killed. Kendall Morris, 26, was indicted for murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Court records show he pleaded not guilty and is out on bond, according to Henry Campbell, his attorney. Now, what was also interesting, and I learned further, And news articles are different, but I did read where there was another unknown accomplice that had fled the scene after this shooting. If you follow our brother from Afros Energy News, T West, he talked about this in depth on his platform. Uh, but it says here Campbell denies that Morris had anything to do with what happened to Josh. He says he has no reason to want to retaliate. Well, all people are innocent until proven guilty. And no, I don't know all the facts of it. As a lawyer, that's just how I do things. I believe in due process, and you have to show the evidence. However, there is motive. If it is true that Mr. Morris was involved in that shooting on November 23rd, 2018, of course there is motive because he eliminated the number one witness to a murder that he was involved with. And let me stop and pause again. He allegedly, if it was true and he did do this, I don't have evidence that he did this, so I'm not going to be reckless with my words and say Mr. Morris murdered Joshua Brown. We don't have that information. So I don't have that information. So I'm very cautious about what I say. As again, due process is just alleged, and a lot of people suspect that perhaps that had something to do with it. Now, the other thing too that I found interesting when Joshua Brown was murdered, and Esley Merritt was talking about the different reports that he had as to how Joshua Brown was killed. How they were saying in one instance he was shot in his mouth, the other instance said he was shot in his buttocks. He was shot multiple times. A judge, a sitting Dallas County judge, Clay Jenkins, excuse me, tweeted out that Joshua Brown was not shot in the mouth. Now, my only thing with that is what is a judge doing actually tweeting about a homicide investigation? Now, what business is he? I'm just listening to that. What business is he doing getting involved in it? Now, that's not saying judges can't have Twitter accounts and social media accounts. They can talk about anything, obviously they want, but of course, they have to be very careful about what they say and tweet because they're in those positions of power, and you obviously don't want to uh, besmirch the role of a judicial officer, or the main officer of the court, in a way when your tweets can get you into trouble. Of course, Donald Trump can get away with doing some things as because he's the president of the United States. So we live in that type of world. But nevertheless, I was just surprised that Judge Jenkins actually made that remark. So that was one thing that actually caught me off guard. So now we have Jenkins mentioning that. Then you have Avery Moore talking about how Joshua Brown, this had nothing to do with him being a witness. And he went out of his way, this was interesting, he went out of his way to criticize those who I guess were bringing up conspiracy theories. So let me just play that clip for you, okay? Hold on a second.
Everything is so expensive these days. Most of my paychecks are spent on groceries alone.
I hate these ads.
Oh, try Flip. It's an app that finds you weekly circulars and coupons. You can browse by category or search for specific items you need. It's Flip with 2 P's, as in...
Got it.
Try Flip, guys. That's the message.
It on sale, find it on Flip.
Okay, here it is.
As you know, Joshua Brown was shot and killed October the 4th of 2019. He was shot and killed at 4606 Cedar Springs in Dallas, Texas, which is why we gathered here today. Through the dedicated work of my detectives, we have identified 3 suspects in the Joshua Brown murder. Jacarius Mitchell, Black male, 20 years of age. Michael Mitchell, black male, 32 years of age. Thaddeus Green, black male, 22 years of age.
Okay, let me pause it. Let me just get to the actual clip that I wanted to play for you, okay?
Down under such short notice, I thank you for trusting us to provide you with true department at 214-373-8477 or 214-671-3690. These suspects are to be considered dangerous because they're armed. Again, I want to thank you for coming out under such short notice. I thank you for trusting us to provide you with true and accurate information. I thank you, our community members, for partnering with us and believing in us as we pursue these fugitives.
Y'all should see the comments on this
I'd be
page
remiss
from
if I
CBS
didn't
News
thank my detectives.
and the
I've said it
dislikes.
before and I'll say it again. They are the most talented, dedicated, committed detectives in the country. They are currently still in Louisiana pursuing the suspects.
Okay, here it is. Pay
As
attention
you
to
know,
what he
there's been
says.
speculation and rumors that have been shared by community leaders claiming that Mr. Brown's death was related to the Amber Geiger trial and somehow the Dallas Police Department was responsible. I assure you that is simply not true. And I encourage those leaders to be mindful of their actions moving forward because their words have jeopardized the integrity of the city of Dallas as well as the Dallas Police Department. Thank you very much.
Okay, did you hear that? Let me play it one more time. Let me play it one more time.
Actions moving forward because they and somehow the Dallas Police Department was responsible. It's in the country. They are currently still in Louisiana pursuing the suspects. As you know, there's been speculation and rumors that have been shared by community leaders claiming that Mr. Brown's death was related to the Amber Geiger trial and somehow the Dallas Police Department was responsible. I assure you that is simply not true. And I encourage those.
You assure us it's simply not true, yet you haven't told us how did you come up to this information. You haven't even given us the hospital. That, number one, we have to also ascertain whether this confession, this is just me thinking as a criminal defense lawyer, but you got to think about this. How was this confession obtained? Was it voluntary or involuntarily? This hospital that this man is in, where is he? We don't know.
Those leaders to be mindful of their actions moving forward because their words have jeopardized the integrity of the city of Dallas as well as the Dallas Police Department.
He says the words of those that were spreading these allegations around have jeopardized the integrity of the city of Dallas and especially the Dallas Police Department. Their words. Well, what about the actions of your police department, Assistant Chief Avery Moore? What about your actions, the actions of your officers on September 6, 2018? What about Amber Geiger and Martin Ramirez having an affair with each other? Now, of course, I'm not worried about that. They, co-workers sleep with each other all the time. Of course, this was a married man, but the withholding of evidence, the hiding of evidence, which would be obstruction of justice. What about what they did? Where's their integrity? And most of all, you have lost the trust of the people. The actions of your officers in the Botham Jean killing, the actions of the judge in the trial, the actions of the way that the state has treated many of these witnesses without care. Now, where's the killer of Nicholas Diggs? We have to ask those questions. Yes, Nicholas Diggs. We don't know exactly. Of course, I'm just being real talking about myself. While I don't have any information, I wasn't there when all of this stuff happened. We have a duty We have the option to request that our government, whether as bad as it may be, as bad as the things that they have done to black people, we built this country, and we pay taxes, and we can definitely be sure to request that an independent investigation be done. We can't trust the wolf to investigate the slaughter in the chicken house. None of the stuff that is coming forward makes any sense to me. I can't see how this I can't see how somebody who has money, obviously, who I think Mr. Brown at one time was living in California. This was a young man that there's no proof of him having any gang ties. Keep in mind also, when you testify in court, they do a whole background check on you to make sure you don't have any priors. So he's running a drug business, has no priors, supposedly, and he was able to get away with this squeaky clean image. And then finally, he meets his doom by three men from Alexandria, Louisiana, that drove 4.5 hours to get weed. Okay, I've driven to Dallas myself from Baton Rouge. Now, Baton Rouge from Alexandria is a good, I want to say 2.5, 3 hours. And of course, New Orleans to Baton Rouge is about an hour and 20 minutes. Anybody will tell you, of course, it depends on the traffic that you're in. But I've never heard of a drug dealer going out for that much, for that little of marijuana. Not drug dealers, excuse me, but I've never heard of even a pothead going out for something like that. You can get things much closer to home. So none of what they're saying makes sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to these people. And you should see on the CBS News website, there's over 51,000 views. There's 1.3 thousand likes to 983 dislikes. So that's interesting. A lot of people are not buying this. And if you read the comments, they're playing with everybody's minds, real life reality TV show, something, yeah, doesn't make sense either. If you're a drug dealer, you don't keep a gun in your backpack. You keep it in your pocket, or you keep it on your waistband so you'll have it in case something bad goes down. At this point, they are insulting the intelligence of people. Yeah. One thing I will agree with Mr. Merritt on is that an independent investigation be done. I think that it's necessary to get the FBI involved. Now, yeah, the FBI is crooked. They have their issues. Of course, they were involved. I've seen people um, respond to my tweet where I actually had probably the most likes since I've been on Twitter in the last 9 or 10 years. I had over 280 people liking my comment to Lee Merritt saying, and to the Dallas police, do not let them investigate this. I stated that they need to either have the FBI or Department of Justice involved, or some type of independent agency, and multiple likes to that, including one from Holly Robinson Pete, which I thought was interesting. But, you know, the main suspects, of course, many people think would be the police, just about the timing of it all. The fact that this young man is dead less than a week after he gives testimony in a trial where he's going to give even more testimony in a civil trial, and he's obviously going to testify in a criminal matter of which he was the victim. So there is motive there, as they say. Now, of course, you don't need motive to prove an element of a crime. Intent and motive are different. Whereas when we look at motive, I'm not giving you guys legal advice. I'm not creating an attorney-client relationship, but I'm just telling you what the definition of motive means. Motive, of course, means a purpose behind one's action. Whereas when you say intent, it means that when you look at a crime of murder, when they say specific intent, or they refers to mens rea, they are asking they willingly and voluntarily knew would result from those actions. So when you pull a gun and you point it at someone's head, there's a reasonable belief to a reasonably prudent person that you know that this will cause either serious bodily injury or death, which is enough to prove intent in a case of murder. However, let's just say I'm holding a gun, and a perfect example is you're on a movie set. This is what happened with Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, when they were filming The Crow. And there's a scene where a guy playing a police officer, this actual actor, actually shot Brandon Lee with what he thought was a blank, but it was actually a squib load that got stuck. And when it fired, it actually shot a 357 Magnum, or if I'm not mistaken, it was a 44 Magnum, just like at the same power behind it, bullet into the heart of Brandon Lee, killing him. He bled to death. So that would be an accident. And of course, if that actor didn't know what was going on at that time and didn't know that that was real, then of course that was, yeah. Brother T West is on the chat line. Diggs was killed while attempting to kill Joshua Brown on November 23rd, 2018. Kendall Morris was an accomplice. Where is Kendall Morris? Those are some important questions to ask. Where is Kendall Morris and so forth? I don't know. I understand he was, from the information that was given, that he was bailed out. Now, there's no proof again, I just say this as a general rule: everyone is innocent till proven guilty. None of this stuff has been proven. Even these men who they say are suspects in this case, they're innocent until proven otherwise, until there's more information. But it seems that this is coming out of the same Nipsey Hussle type of uh, Nipsey Hussle type mystery, where when this man supposedly randomly shoots Nipsey because Nipsey didn't want him around, thinking that he was a snitch. He shoots him randomly and runs into a getaway car with a woman driving. And when they get to the police, we find out that the police didn't even bother to question or arrest this woman. They let her go freely. And on top of that, we learned months later that Nipsey was under investigation from the LAPD. So that was very, I just use the term interesting. And while a lot of people think it was suspect that he was killed in the way that he was, and there was no, obviously nothing done to the supposed getaway driver. She's never been formally charged, to my understanding, and they were even talking about they were going to investigate that, which I don't know. But a lot of people are not buying this story about the three suspects, and I don't buy it either. I have my doubts about it. I'd be lying if I said I believe they were telling the truth. I don't. Dallas police has had a history of corruption, and it came out in that trial. We also you can go back to the 1960s with the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and how members of the Dallas Police Department, as well as members of, the Secret Service, uh, obviously there have been rumors about political figures, including uh, LBJ. There have been rumors about George W. Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, everyone involved to his assassination. And even the mayor of Dallas, his brother was Earl Cabell. The mayor of Dallas at that time was Charles Cabell. And JFK fired Earl Cabell over the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Well, JFK's limo was not supposed to go down Elm Street and pass in front of the book depository. His parade route was to go straight from the airport all the way, I believe, to Maine, and go straight forward to the Trade Mart, because that's where the president was there for breakfast, for that event. He was in Texas, of course, early campaigning. He had left Fort Worth and then he went to Dallas, Texas. And of course, he had a lot of death threats against him. And there were members of the police department that they claim were involved, because I do know that there was a police officer, a man in one of the documentaries on JFK, they actually show a man in a police uniform firing a shot at the president. They call him Badge Man. You can go look that up. Now, and these men were actually seen by eyewitnesses like Lee Bowers and a few other people And of course, if you look at the Zapruder film, you can see people ducking down because, and he even testified how he heard a shot coming from the right side of him. If you look at the Orville Nix film footage, there are people running up on a grassy knoll. Anyway, long story short, I don't want to be long-winded. People have had, there was obviously a conspiracy to kill John F. Kennedy, and it seemed like members of that city, members in high places, including in the police department, the thing that happened even to Lee Harvey Oswald being killed by Jack Ruby in a police station. How was Jack Ruby able to get that close to Lee Harvey Oswald? Someone from the Dallas Police Department obviously let him in. So there have been questions about, about the police department, Dallas, the allegations of them being corrupt for a long, long time. So I'm not surprised if they had anything to do with this man's murder. Of course, we don't have the evidence, so I'm just offering a conjecture. But I certainly believe that they do not need to be investigating this. This should be done by an independent source. And what I would suggest everyone do, you can actually go and look up the contact information. The police chief actually gave, the assistant police chief actually gave their phone number. I suggest we call them. I suggest we go to their website, see if we can contact them via email. I suggest we write letters and telling them we do not believe you. We need an independent investigation. That's my suggestion on how to deal with something like this, because we need answers. And if witnesses can be snuffed out like that for merely coming forward, doing what they're supposed to do, that this, it saddens me that this young man is dead, at 28 years old, and that now he's being defamed with a story that just doesn't ring to me. Now, we don't know how people are in their private life, but I certainly think more is going to come out of this, especially what we saw with the Dallas police, the Amber Geiger, the civil trial, which we've seen from the judge. I think more is going to come. So let's just stay tuned. And anyway, guys, this is it for me. I've been talking for 37 minutes, rambling a little bit on. Thank y'all for being here. Tune in for the next video, okay? Peace.